Hi guys! I am at my condo rooftop right now because it's the only peaceful place I can film, which has a somewhat scenic background. My house is just not it. So today I'm gonna talk about moving to Bangkok and how much it has cost me so far for every month. I'm only in Bangkok for 3 months, which is generally quite short term. And because it is so short term, there are certain costs that will be slightly higher. For example, rent. Right. So maybe let me just talk you through what I will be running through one by one, and then after that I will expand on it. So firstly, I will give you guys some context on my stay, my lifestyle, and then secondly, we will kind of break down into the major few costs. So firstly, we'll talk about rent, and then we'll talk about transportation, food, entertainment, and shopping, and fitness. I will also talk about some things like day trips or setup cost. It will not be as comprehensive because honestly, I didn't really take too much note on the setup cost, but I will just briefly go through it to give you guys context, especially for those who are planning to stay shorter term, because the setup cost is gonna be the same whether you're gonna be here for 1 month, 3 months, or 12 months or longer. So the shorter you stay, the more these costs will not make sense at all. Okay, so let us begin. Okay, sorry, I wanted a change in environment because it was a bit hot there. Okay, so let us begin. Okay, we'll start by talking about some context. So, as I mentioned just now, I'm here for 3 months. The accommodations I'm staying at is an Airbnb, which makes it a little bit more expensive than if you were to rent for 1 year. So, a lot of the rental platforms like Didi Property, which is the property guru equivalent in Thailand, they have like a minimum of 6 months contract. Even that is a bit rarer to find. You usually see 1 year, and then there is a 2 months deposit and 1 month upfront. So yeah, that is for longer term stays. It's definitely cheaper, but if you're gonna stay short term and then you wanna forfeit the deposit, then it all adds up to the same as if you were to Airbnb. Third thing is I'm living a rather comfortable life. In fact, I would say slightly more comfortable than I would in Singapore because I'm staying in a condo here, and I take private transport almost everywhere I go, even though it's Grab bike. But in Singapore, I would usually take public transport. And in terms of food, I grab food a lot and I eat out a fair bit as well. And the kind of food that I eat are sometimes street food, but most of the time restaurants. So a rather comfortable life. Okay, so I'm not living like a backpacker, or I'm not living too fancifully as well. So that's the third context. And then the fourth context is I'm working remotely, which means I do not have to travel to the office in Thailand. So I do not have to travel to the office in Thailand, which means that I get to choose when I want to go out and where I want to go. If not, I'm just at home most of the time. I usually work in my apartment. If not, I will go to the condo lounge to work, or, some cafes when I'm feeling fancy. So these are, I guess, all the context you will need before we kind of move on to the next section. Okay, not gonna lie, the view is amazing. So I decided to come up, even though there's a big crow. I hope it doesn't knock down my camera. So anyway, you see? Okay, so what I wanted to say is we'll start with rent. Okay, so as I mentioned just now, I'm doing an Airbnb. It's a 1 bedroom apartment. I think about 32 square meters. And I'm staying in a rather convenient location, even though it is not where most of the expats stay. The expats and other remote workers. I know they like to stay at Asok, Ekamai, and whatnot. I'm staying slightly up north, which is nearer to Lat Pral area. And while it is slightly out of town, it is very convenient because I have the MRT and the BTS all within walking distance of my place. And what else do I have to say? Yeah, you have everything you need around this area. So transportation, some of the major malls are here. I have a lot of grocery shopping options. I have markets, I have a park nearby, and I also stay near my gym, which really helps lower down the transportation costs actually. Whew! I just stepped on something. Cost-wise, it is 25,000 a month, 25,000 baht a month. And this does not include electricity and internet bills. Electricity and internet bills, including water, is, how much was it? 2.3k baht. So 2,300 baht. And honestly, I feel like it's a bit expensive. And I did tell the Airbnb host, but she mentioned that because the aircon, like each aircon has their own compressor, so she's charging higher. So there's nothing to debate lah. We'll just leave it at that. Rental is 25,000 a month, right? But this is because it is Airbnb. So the upsides of Airbnb is that they actually, refill my toilet paper for me, my soap, shampoo, and there's all the essentials that you will need for cooking and whatnot. So pretty much everything is provided for, and if I need a top up, my host will just drop by and settle everything for me. So I would say that is the upside. However, if we want to talk about living here long term, which means you don't have to go for the Airbnb option, staying at the unit that I'm currently staying at now, or units within the same condo, will be much, much cheaper. So I'm renting for 25,000, but there are many listings out there for this condo that are about 16,000. So that is a huge discount. That's almost, I think, 40%. Let me see. Yeah, that's about 40% off. So if you guys are here long term, just do a long term rental. Don't bother with Airbnb at all. You'll save so much more money. Okay, doing another environment change to keep things fresh. So now that we are done with rent, let's talk about transportation. So as I mentioned, I stay near a park which I run a lot at. I stay near my Muay Thai gym, which I do grab bike to, and I also stay near two train stations, so the BTS station and the MRT station. So connectivity is great. I can get to town, I can get to Chinatown, I can get anywhere with these two train lines. Okay, so my main form of transportation is the Mosai. And usually I will use Grab to book my Mosai. I know that Bolt is a lot cheaper, but I'm just very accustomed to using Grab. And especially with their safety features, I just feel much safer using Grab. So when it comes to Grab, I have three places that I usually Grab to. Firstly, the gym. So that's about 50 baht to the gym. And I go 3 times a week, and it's about 1,200 baht a month if I add it up. Second place I always go to is the park for a run. That is 40 baht per trip. I usually take the Grab there, and then I will walk home after my run. So it's only one way. I run about twice a week, so that is 320 per month. And then occasionally I go to cafes, and sometimes I use the Mosai, sometimes I use the train. So if I use the Mosai, it is about 50 baht, and I go like once a week. So it's about 400 baht to cafes. So if I add up the Mosai cost per month, it will be 1,920 baht. Second mode of transport that I always go for is public transportation, which is the MRT and the BTS. So for the MRT, I will actually use my Visa card, And then for the BTS, I have my Rabbit card, which I will need to top up occasionally. Um, just a ballpark figure because I don't really keep track. In total, I use about 500 baht for both the MRT and the BTS combined. The last mode of transportation that I don't really go for is the Grab car. So why do I not go for Grab cars? Firstly, the Bangkok jam is crazy. It does not make sense for me to Grab car anywhere because I'll be stuck there for an additional 30 minutes. But most of the time, if I travel a lot further out, so if it's like 40 minutes by bike or 30 minutes by bike, then I will reconsider and take a car. Because honestly, the bike is not really very safe, especially when you have to go on highways because you're not wearing a helmet. Some bikes do offer the option of helmet, but I don't go for it lah. Don't follow my footsteps. Be safe. Another reason why I would grab car is if I were to party at night. So, you know, at night people drink and drive, and I don't feel particularly safe on a bike when there are drunk people driving around. So I would definitely take a car. So that is about 4 times a month. On average, the Grab car ride from wherever I'm drinking or partying will be about 280 baht per trip. So that is a total of 1,120 baht, like in total. So for transportation, if I add all these modes of transport up, it will be 3,540 baht. Okay, another change in environment. For every section, I'm like changing a place so that I can keep things fresh. Okay, so food. Food is a major expense back at home. I spend so much money on food. So how much do I spend here? There are three main categories of food. So firstly, I will do Grab delivery because that is extremely convenient. You get all sorts of food there, from fine dining to street food. And the other one, of course, is grocery shopping because I do stay alone, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense for me to buy food because the portions can be a bit too much or you need to hit a minimum fee. So I will choose to cook on my own, especially for breakfast. And then lastly, eating out in restaurants. So let's talk about groceries first because that is the smallest expense. I usually shop at grocery like supermarkets. So I don't go to local markets um, to get my food. I shop at places like Top and Big C. So I do know Top is a little bit more expensive. That is the cold storage equivalent for those who are from Singapore. And Big C is like a giant. There are really there's like Villa Market and whatnot, but I've been to Lotus and I really don't like Lotus because the shopping experience is really bad. Like everything just doesn't feel fresh and it's all just like thrown around everywhere, which I really don't like. So Top and Big C are my top two places to shop for. Uh, per month, I spend about 800 baht and I cook about 5 meals a week, especially breakfast. And that's like 20 meals a month. So 800 baht for 20 meals a month. And then secondly, Grab delivery. So Grab delivery, I also have 5 meals a week, which is 20 meals a month from Grab delivery. On average, I spend about 180 baht per meal. The range is from 110 baht to 350 baht. 110 is usually the more street food kind, local food, and 350 is like a bit more like fancy stuff. Like you get burgers from cafes or you get things like healthy food. I love ordering from Grain. It's just convenient and healthy. So yeah, if I average it out, sometimes I eat the cheaper food, sometimes I eat the more expensive food, and it totals up to 3,600 baht per month. And then lastly, the third option is restaurants. I honestly don't eat out a lot. If I eat out, I go to cafes because I need to work. And when I work at cafes, I don't really buy unnecessary things like cakes or whatnot. I usually just buy a meal and a drink. So, I eat at cafes and restaurants about 8 times a month. and it's about plus minus 250 baht per meal. So it can range from 150 for those like local restaurant kind. And I'm not talking like cheap restaurants. Cheap restaurants can be like 60 baht. But like comfortable air-conditioned restaurants selling local food can be from 150 per person to 350 for the more expensive ones. So total I spend on restaurants and cafes is 2,000 baht. And that totals my food expense to 6,400 baht per month. I'm gonna show you the view since I'm at the rooftop. Super, super gorgeous view. Okay, now back to work. Where am I? Okay, I will cover two more things, which is entertainment and shopping and fitness. This one will be fairly quick because I don't do much of that. So entertainment and shopping. Entertainment, I'm talking about things like bars and clubs. And I usually just go once a month for bars and clubs. And how it usually works is that I will go to one or two bars and then one or two clubs after. So it's like it all happens in one day, and that would be about a total of 4 to 5 alcoholic drinks and sometimes a little bit of food in between. But generally, we'll just get food from Seven in between like bar hopping or club hopping. So on average, a cocktail in a bar that we go to, usually the higher end bars would be about 280 to 380 baht. And club entry, depending on which club you go to, um, for one drink, it will be about 300 baht, and for two drinks, it will be 500 baht. So I'm quoting from the clubs that I go to, which I personally think are a bit less shady. So clubs like Wind, Dope and Dirty, Route 66 I didn't like, Onyx. Okay, so yeah. Then after that, random seven snacks for about like 70 baht. I'll share it with my friends, and that will total one night on drinking and clubbing. Very, very fun drinking and clubbing to about 1,250 per night and per month actually, because I only go once a month. And for clothing, I wouldn't give you a total cost because this is really very subjective. You might not even buy anything. But for female clothing, cheaper clothes are about 200 to 250 baht. If you get it from places like Union Mall or Platinum Mall, um, or even like night markets. And if you go for local designer, but mid-range local designer, because there are local designer brands that are extremely expensive, local designer mid-range brands would be about from 800 to 1.5 thousand baht. Yeah. So that is kind of like the cost of things here. Fitness. I only do three things mainly. Firstly, I run, which is free. I run at a park near my place. Secondly, I go to the gym when I don't feel like going to the park or I'm too tired to go to the park. That is also free because I have a gym at my condo. I also swim at my condo. And then thirdly, Muay Thai. So for Muay Thai, I actually go to a gym pretty near to my place, and they usually have promos, and I usually buy the 10 class pack, and 10 classes will last me for about a month. And for the latest promo that they have, 10 sessions will be 300, 2,050 baht for a 1 hour class each. So if I total it up, of course, it's Muay Thai is the only cost. That will be 3,250 baht per month. But it really depends on the gyms that you go to, and if you stay in a condo, it if you're like a gym buff, then the condo facilities might not work for you. I know that there are condos in like Asok that have crazy gym facilities, but for the condo that I stay in, and I'm very sure most of the regular condos will just have very minimal equipment, just enough to survive. But for gym buffs, it might not be enough for you. You might need to get a gym membership elsewhere. Okay, we'll do the interesting part while I walk because, you know, feels more refreshing that way. So the last part, of course, is the total cost. So the total cost for rent is rent and electricity is 27,300 baht, transportation 3,540 baht, food 6,400 baht, fitness 3,250 baht, and that totals up to, I will give you the figure with and without rent. So without rent, it is about 13,190 baht, which if I convert it to SGD, it will be about $530. And for the amount with rent, it is about 40,000 for like 40,500 baht. So that is about 1.6 thousand SGD. So SGD to USD, for you guys who are not from Singapore, you can just convert it yourself and figure out the numbers. But initially I thought like, oh my goodness, I am spending so much money here, right? And in the end, when I did the calculations, I was like, hey, even with rent, it is still equivalent to the kind of money I spend at home, because the food cost back at home is so much higher. It's like 3 times higher. So it kind of nets out with the rent that I'm paying here. So I hope this gives you guys a good idea of what it is like living fairly comfortably as a foreigner in Bangkok. And the kind of lifestyle I have now is somewhat equivalent to the lifestyle I have back in Singapore. So for those Singaporeans who want to move here and want to know what it's like, how much it costs, I hope this video is informative enough. If it is not informative enough, if there's something else you guys want to know, like dating in Thailand, I don't have much experience on that, but like I can ask around lah, or just other stuff, let me know in the comment section and I will try to make a video for you guys. For now, I need to get home and cook. Bye. Thanks for watching. Okay, so I also said that I will give you guys some bonus. So day trips. So I went to, okay, it's not really a day trip, it's a 2-day 1-night camping trip to Kanchanaburi. And how much that would cost you, honestly, it's about 1,300 baht for foreigners, including camping, entrance to the national park, and 3 meals a day. So extremely, extremely affordable. I mean, why I'm adding this in is because if you want to go out of Bangkok, um, you might think that it's gonna cost you a lot because you have to travel out and then you have to stay there and whatnot. But if you're not using flights, if you're using a train, a minibus, it is definitely going to be a lot cheaper. And of course, there are other options that don't include you staying in fancy hotels. So because Bangkok is so central, you get to go to all these different places. Sorry, I'm very distracted because there's an earthworm there. But let me film the earthworm so I can include it into this clip later. So disgusting. Ui. Oh my gosh. Gross. Okay, but anyway, like I was saying, because Bangkok is so central, you get to go to many parts of Thailand. It doesn't have to be a cheap trip, you can go somewhere fancier, more expensive, more luxurious, but there are many, many affordable beaches, national parks, waterfalls, just a few hours out of Bangkok by train or minibus. So that is something that is amazing about staying in Bangkok, because you just get to go everywhere. You don't limit yourself to the city, but you can stay in the city. For a city girl like me who occasionally wants to experience something new, I think that it's perfect. So yeah. I will link the trip to Kanchanaburi. I have a video on that in this video, so that you guys, if you want like a more detailed breakdown of the cost, you can go into that video to check it out. Okay, lastly, setup cost. So as I mentioned just now, right, setup cost is something that honestly I did not expect to be so expensive, because I thought the Airbnb would have everything I need. And staying here for 3 months to buy like home appliances is just it just doesn't make sense because am I going to bring it home or what am I going to do with it? So there are certain things that, of course, the basics the Airbnb will provide, but an Asian like me, there are pots and pans, but I needed a rice cooker, an air fryer, and I also needed like a wet mop, which they don't have. They have a dry mop. So it depends on your lifestyle. These are things that I'm used to at home and I want to have in my home. So I ended up buying it. There are very affordable brands out there. So I got my air fryer and rice cooker on a bundle deal and it cost me about, let me see, I bought it from Shopee by the way. It cost me about 1,500 baht, and then the dry mop and some other like shelvings and stuff to get my stuff organized. It cost about a total of maybe 3,000 baht. But that's about it for setup cost, depending on what you need. If you want to buy an oven, then of course that's another huge cost. If you want to buy a air purifier, humidifier, or whatnot, then that's definitely going to be a lot more. So setup cost is something that you gotta look out for because it's something I did not expect, and my first month was really spent purchasing all these things and um, setting things up in the house. There's another thing that I think nobody talks about. I don't know why, but it's so important, and that is water. Water is I didn't know how to handle the water situation in Thailand because back at home you can drink from the tap, right? And also, of course, it's a like water filter that I can buy. But if I buy it in Thailand, it just doesn't make sense because it is so expensive. And I didn't want to go for cheaper brands because I was just afraid, water filter is something that if it doesn't work well, then I don't know what I'm drinking. So I ended up having a Sprinkle subscription. So Sprinkle is like the default water supplier for many, many people in Thailand. So what you do is, like those big 19-liter bottles. So you order that on subscription. You can choose whether you want two delivered every week or like what's the frequency. And they deliver it on a set day in a week, depending on the like area that you stay in. For my area, I think it's Monday or something. So if you want to skip a delivery, if you feel like you still have enough water at home, you can just update them on the website itself. Everything is really simple and straightforward. But something that you have to note is because it's that 19 liters water, right? Usually what people do is they have the hot and cold, that machine thingy, and then you put it on top and then you dispense hot and cold water. That was too expensive for me. So I opted for this option that is like a automatic pump. So I have the 19 liters on the floor, and then there's a pump system thing that you put on top, and you just press the water. So of course there's no like hot water, cold water. It's just the default, room temperature water that will come out. But I think that is more than enough for me. But yeah, that is the water situation. The really annoying part is carrying 17 liters up to your apartment. I'm not sure about other apartments, but my apartment itself, how it usually works is that there is a room in the lobby that's used to store the sprinkle water. So every time water gets delivered, it goes there. And then once you're done with your 19 liters, you put it back down so that they can collect it. And then what my condo does is they provide trolleys that you can put the 19 liters bottles on and then you push it into the lift and then up to your room. But you actually have to use the service lift instead of the passenger lift. Yeah. So that's one thing that I really didn't know, and I think you guys should know because if you're moving to Thailand, that is the water situation that I took a really long time to figure out. But it's damn genius, and the service is excellent. The service is top notch. I forgot the cost, so I will insert the cost here later. But that is one of those setup costs that is pretty interesting.